There are four types of asynchronous operations we have in the Apex. Future, queuable, batch-apex, schedule-apex. Future, queuable, batch-apex, schedule-apex. We will start our operation with future method. What is this future method and how it is going to be used? To understand the concept, I'll make it a generalized example so that you remember the concept. Let us see. I have a requirement like this. I have a public telephone booth. In the public telephone booth, at a time, how many people can go and talk? I have a public telephone booth. At a time, how many people can enter? Only one person can enter. A group of people are waiting in the queue. So, how they are going to get a turn, boss? I have a public booth. Number of people are waiting in the queue. Group of people are waiting in the queue. Okay. Now let us say Rao. Now this group of people are waiting in the queue. How will they get the turn? First the Sham has to get in. Once the Sham has completed the call, then only Ram will get his turn. Once the Ram completed the turn, then only Kiran will get. Because they are waiting in the queue, the order of their calls will be sequential order. Unless the Sham completes, Ram will not get his turn. Am I right or wrong? It is a sequential order. Now, Sham, he want to talk for 1 minute. Ram, he want to talk for 1 minute. Let's say 2 minutes. Now, Kiran, he want to speak to his girlfriend. So, time not specified. Faraz, you want to give for 1 minute. Wilson want to talk to his wife. Talk or listen, boss. Right. So, this will be what? 1 minute. Now, this is the order. Now, this is the order. Sham went inside. 1 minute call closed. Ram went inside. Okay, 2 minutes call closed. Kiran went inside. He took 1 hour time, boss. So, this guy, he went 1 hour time he has taken. Then he came out. This Faraz, who just want to make a call and say information, just it's a 1 minute message he want to convey. Just it's a 1 minute message you want to convey, right? So you want to say, boss, your grandmother serious start immediately. This is a childhood excuse, right? The same message you want to convey. It's just 1 minute message, but this Kiran is taken 1 hour time. I was waiting in the queue for last 1 hour to convey this 1 hour, 1 minute message. Because the operation is what? Sequential operation. Then this Wilson went, he took 30 minutes of his time. Then Ravi, the guy who just want to speak for 1 minute, he is waiting in the queue from last 1 hour 30 minutes. He just want to 1 minute of time to perform the operation. The time he needs to complete the operation is only 1 minute because it is a sequential operation. Unless the previous people have completed the task, I will not get my turn. So I was waiting in the queue from last 1 hour 30 minutes to get my turn. Why? Because there is a sequential operation. Entire operation is not delayed. Entire operation is not delayed. Operation is delayed only because of these two people. Because of these two people only, operation is delayed. Now, if any one of the people are taking more time, the entire operation will be delayed. Then I will see, boss, Kiran, you are speaking to your girlfriend. Who is your girlfriend? He told Divya. Now, I am going to ask, anybody, Faraz, Wilson, Ravi, any one of you are making a call to Divya? No? Right. No dependency. Now, Wilson, whom are you talking to? Kavya. Boss, anybody is making a call to Kavya? No? Fine. Boss, there is no dependency on you. So, what I do, I gave them 2 mobile phones and told, you go out and talk in the mobile, don't disturb the other people. So what happened? Because these people are taking more time, we gave a separate phones to them, ask them, you go out and talk, because rest all the people are getting disturbed. So what happened? Now only these people are running separately. This is one, this is another phone, this is another phone. Now what happened? 3 different calls are going at a time. In one call, Sham, Ram, Faraz, Ravi, they are running in a sequence. Kiran is making another call in another phone. Wilson is making a call in another phone. Now how long it takes to complete the operation? Just 5 minutes. How long it will take? 5 minutes. Rest of the operation is not delayed. You know, you are taking 1 hour, you take your own time. Once your call is completed, your operation will be closed. But rest of the people will not wait for your call to complete. Rest of the operation can complete because they don't have any dependency on you. Did you get my point? Previously, Ravi was waiting for 1 hour 35 minutes to complete his call. Now, Ravi is only waiting for 5 minutes because the people who are taking longer time, we gave them different mobiles and told, you make a call from outside. Because of this, at a time, how many operations are running? 3 operations are running. In one operation, Sham, Ram, Faraz, Ravi is running. In another operation, Kiran. Another operation, Wilson. Now, what is the advantage of this? Now, first operation will be closed in 5 minutes. Second operation is closed in 30 minutes. Third operation is in 1 hour. Now, there is no dependency, and the rest of the operation can be closed very fast. I hope you got my point here. So, if any one of the statements in this taking longer time, if any one of the statements are taking longer time, this will delay the operation. If any one of the person is taking more time, if any one of the statements in the transaction are taking more time, they will delay the operation. To avoid this delay, people who are taking longer time or the statements which are taking more time, those are executed independently from rest of the transaction. Suppose this is the story. Now, the guy who is standing behind, let us say Divya's father. Now, what was that? Even if I am running this independently, but unless Kiran disconnect the call, Faraz cannot make a call because both are trying to make a call to the same girl. Now, Faraz is the father of Divya and Kiran disconnect the call, then only Faraz can make a call. Now, what happened? There is a dependency. I can run them independently only when there is no dependency. If there is a dependency, I cannot run it independently. If any one of the statements are taking longer time, if any one of the statements are taking longer time and they are independent from the rest of the statements, they are independent from the rest of the transaction, then we can run those statements independently from the rest of the transaction. And when there is no dependency, I can run the statement independently from the transaction. Then how do you run it independently is the first question. If you run it independently, this operation is called future operation. What was that? Future method. Are you getting my point? Now concept, if any one of the statements in the transaction, taking longer time. First question. Tell me some statements which will take longer time. I told if any one of the statements are taking longer time. Now tell me some statements which will take longer time. First one. I am making a DML on 10,000 records. How long it will take? Now let me give you. First one. Bulk DML operation. Now, what was this? If you are making a DML on a group of record, it is called bulk DML operation. Execute. Is it delayed now? This is called delayed operation. Now, the UI performance should be faster. The UI performance should be faster. It has taken almost 30 or 1 minute of time to complete the operation. So, what is this called? Delayed operation. These are taking longer time. If you are making a DML, if you are making a bulk DML operation, if you are making bulk DML operation, it may take more time. When you go for a bulk DML operation, it may take more time. Look at this operation. It is called as delayed operation, taking longer time. What was that? Bulk DML operation. Similarly, the next one is web service calls. When you are making a call to third-party system processing it, giving a response. When third-party is taking a third-party system, we made a call. It is taking its own time, giving a response. Now it is taking 30 seconds. It is a delayed operation. Now how long it is taken? Probably 50 seconds or 45 seconds maximum. But we call it as a delayed operation. When you are making a call to third-party system, it may be delayed. So we call them as what? Delayed operation. Now tell me some of the operations which may take longer time. Tell me some of the operation which may take longer time. Web service calls, bulk DML operations. Just let me delete the records first. Now, so the statements which may take longer time are bulk DML operations and web service calls. Okay. In such case, what we do? We will run those statements independently from the rest of the transaction. How will you run them independently from the rest of the transaction? By putting those statements in the future method. By putting those statements in the future method. Now the first question, how do you define a future method? How to define a future method? How do you define a future method? How do you run a future method? So let us take this operation. If you want to define any future method, it has to be having annotation at the rate of future. Every future method should have annotation of at the rate of future method. Future method should be static. Run type of the method should be void. Method name. Parameters, any type except as objects. When you want to define a future method, it is at the rate of future. When you want to define a future method at the rate of future, method should be static. Run type should be void. Parameter, any type of parameter we can give except as objects. So future method should be having annotation of at the rate of future. Method should be a static. Return type should be void, and parameter can be anything except as object. 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 I hope you got my point. Parameter can be anything except as object. Okay. Let us go to the next one. So we are going with example. public void show. Look at this. Now, I am going to execute a method called invoke. This is a method I am going to execute. Invoke. When you call invoke, what is the output we are going to get? Look at this. Invoke 1, invoke 2. Then I call a call me 1, call me 2, call me 3, invoke 3, invoke 4, show me 1, show 2, show 3, invoke 5, invoke 6. So what is the order in which they are executed? What is the order? If I give this, invoke 1, invoke 2, call me 1, call me 2, call me 3, invoke 3, invoke 4, show 1, show 2, show 3, invoke 5, invoke 6. Now what is this? Sequential operation. This is called synchronous operation. This particular sequence they are running, right? But I feel that these statements are taking more time. Call me will take more time, show will take more time. I want them to run independently. If you want them to run independently, what I'm doing? Look at this. At the rate of now, let us execute this operation. I have defined this as future. How did you define? At the rate of future static, at the rate of future static void. Right. Now I have one more operation also here. Just now we have created 88,000 records, okay, which are taking more time. I'm trying to delete them from recyclable. Now I'm giving it. This is what I give. Now, how many future methods I give? 1, 2, 3. Now what happened? Future methods will run separately, rest of the operation will run separately. Look at this. When I told execute, call 1, 2, 3. It's running separately, right? Go to next. Show 1, 2, 3 running separate. Now this delete operation. Now look at this. Invoke 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is running separately. Deletion of data is running separately. Show is running separately. Call me is running separately. So if you define any method as a future, they are going to run independently from the rest of the transaction. Now what is the order of their execution? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 operation. Call me is running separately. Show is running separately. Delete data is running separately. I hope you are good with this. So if you define any operation as a future, it will run independently from the rest of the transaction. It will run independently from the rest of the transaction, provided there are no dependencies. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Right. Okay. Now look at this. Whenever we are calling a future method, any job which is running asynchronously, any job which is going to run asynchronously, any job which is going to run asynchronously will be added to queue. Will be added to queue. Any job which is running asynchronously will be added to queue. Look at the point. I told, try to understand my point here. Some future method I call. The moment I call a future method, the future method first what it does, go to async apex job, register the job in the async apex job. Whenever you are running any asynchronous job, first it will go and register a job here. The moment record is created, it will get some ID, right? Once the record is created, it will get ID. What type of job is this? What is the class? What is the method? Status, completed, failed, pending, queue, status. Once the job is registered here, immediately the job will go and add it to the queue. What is the job that is added here? Now, once the job is added to the queue, based on the availability of the data, the job will run. If the job is added to the queue, from the queue the job has to run, I cannot guarantee when it will run. If the resource is available, right now it is going to run. If resource is what you are looking, somebody is already working on it, it may wait for 1 minute, it may wait for 20 minutes, it may wait for 1 hour, it may wait for 24 hours. So once the job is added to the queue, based on the availability of the resource, the job will run. So whenever we are executing a future method, first what it will do, go and register with async apex job object. Once you are calling asynchronous operation, whenever we are executing a future method, it will go and register the job with async apex job object. Once it is registered, the job will be added to the queue. Once the job is added to the queue, based on the availability of the resource, job will execute. Now, how do you get the status of the job? Now, write a SQL query on async apex job, you get the status of the job. Okay. Now, when you call, what is the return type of the job? Void. Void means it's not giving anything back. If it give, once it is registered, if it give this ID to me, then it's very easy for me to find out the status, right? Suppose when I call, if it give me ID of the job, I can write a SQL query where job ID equal to so and so. I can get the status. But what is the return type here? Void. Because the return type is void, it is not going to return me the job ID. Then I find difficult to find out the status programmatically. I can find out, but I have to write some custom logic to find out the status. So one of the drawback of future method is it will not return the ID of the job. It will not return the ID of the job. Are you clear about this? Have you followed this? Clear? Okay. Next, second one. How many future jobs I can call within a method? Look at the next one. Look at the next statement here. Now I'm giving delete data. Can I call future method within a future method? Can I call future method within a future method? Right. Go and see the status. Setup. I call a future method within a future method. Setup, monitor, jobs, Apex jobs. Future method cannot be called from. What happened? The operation failed. Why future cannot be called from future? Now what was this object called? Async Apex job. Now what is it? Jobs, Apex jobs, list of asynchronous jobs that are registered, they are available here. Status failed, status completed, job type future, right? Class name, method name, ID of the job. Are you clear about this? Am I clear with this? Clear, boss? So any asynchronous method you call will be registered with async Apex job. From there the job is added to the queue. Now future method cannot be called from future method. One point is clear. Second point. How many times the loop will run? Let me make it short. 50. Loop will run 50. So every time the loop is called, what is happening here? Every time the loop is called, what is happening here? One future, second future, third future. 50 times, 50 into 3. 150 times the future method is called. Whenever I say invoke, how many future methods are called? 150 future methods are called. Am I right or wrong? Every time the loop run, the operation will run. When operation is running, each time the operation is running, 3 times they are calling the future method. 50 into 3, 150 times they are trying to call. So they are trying to call future method 150 times. What was it? Too many future calls, 51. So within a method, how many future methods we can call? Only 50. Within a transaction, how many future methods? Only 50. Right. Now tell me what are the 3 drawbacks what we have, tell me. First, future method will not be supporting S object. I told future method will not take any S object as a parameter. Future method will not give you any return type. Third one, future method cannot be called from future method. Future cannot be called from future. Future will not support S object. Future will not return any job ID. There are 3 drawbacks. How do you find the status of the future method? Setup, monitor, jobs, Apex job. What is the other way? Write a SQL query on async Apex job object. Because every job is registered there, I can find out the status of the job from async Apex job object. Are you clear? Now, is it going to execute immediately? We cannot guarantee. It is added to the queue. When it is added to the queue, I cannot guarantee the execution. I hope you are good. Next question. I told S objects are not supported, right? Why S objects are not supported? Let me give. I have a database here. Wipro. This is the record. Right. Now, I wrote a SQL query. I was passing. I have account ACC. I wrote a query. I got account record. That account record I am passing as. The amount I call future class dot call me, job is registered here, job is added to the queue, right? Job is added to the queue. In the queue, I was waiting with what is ACC dot name? What is that ACC? Wipro. I passed the data. I took the data. I was waiting in the queue. I was waiting in the queue with the data called Wipro. I was waiting in the queue. Meanwhile, somebody modified this data at the backend. You are not executed immediately. You are waiting in the queue. You took 5 minutes to execute your program. You are waiting in the queue. Meanwhile, somebody modified the data at the backend. But what is the data you are carrying now? Wipro 1111. After 5 minutes, it is not Wipro 1111. It should be Wipro 9999. But already you took the data. You are waiting in the queue. You took the data. You are waiting in the queue. Okay, when you are waiting in the queue, somebody modified the data in the database. But the modified data you don't have. You have the old version of the data. Then what will happen? Logic will run wrongly. Because it is a asynchronous operation, job is added to the queue. Because it is a asynchronous operation, job is added to the queue. I cannot guarantee when you are going to execute. When you are in the waiting state, if somebody make a modification on the data, that changes will not be reflected to you. Still, you will run the logic with the old data, which will have an impact on your business logic. There is a reason future method will not support SObject as a parameter. Are you clear? So what is the first drawback of future method? Future method will not support SObject as a parameter. Future method cannot be called within a future method. Then future method is not going to return you ID of the job because the run type is void. Because run type is void. I hope you are good. People are good with this? Clear with this? Okay. How many future jobs I can call within a transaction? 50. Are you clear about this? How do you define a future method? At the rate of future, void, static, void, method name, parameters, any parameter apart from SObject. How can you track the status? Two ways. One is declarative, setup, monitor, Apex jobs, Apex job, I can find the status. Second one, write a SQL query on async Apex job. What is this async Apex job? Any asynchronous operation that is running in the Salesforce will be registered with this. And job ID will start with 707. Asynchronous job ID will start with 707. I hope you are good. Clear? Okay. Next, tell me one use case where we can use this future method apart from handling the bulk operation. DML is a bulk operation. Apart from those two. Apart from your bulk DML and your web service call, tell me one more use case where I can use the future method. Okay. Now look at this. Mixed DML exception. What was the concept called? Mixed DML exception. Let me give an example. What is that mixed DML exception? Where we are going to use it. Look at this example, boss. Everyone. I'm just making it generalized to get the concept. Just making generalized explanation to get the concept right. What is that mixed DML exception? Try to understand this concept. So these are 4 friends, boss. Let me give the names or regular names. Right. Now, these people have scheduled a plan. These people have scheduled a plan. They had a plan. What was that? Now, let us say on tomorrow they had a scheduled plan. At 12 o'clock, some lunch they want to go. 2 o'clock, some movie. some plan they have made it. This is a group of statements, right? So this was scheduled on, let us say, 22nd December 2018. On 22nd December 2018, they had this schedule. It is a group of instructions which are going to run on 22nd December, right? Now, this Sham on 19th December, he got a call from the project manager that there is a deployment scheduled on 22nd December. Then the Sham came to know on 19th December that there is a deployment on 22nd December. They had some schedule on 22nd December. On 19th December, Sham came to know that there are some deployment scheduled. Okay, you cannot take a leave. Then Sham informed to the team, his friends, let us postpone to 23rd. Now what the team will say, boss? Okay, no more changes are entailed. Okay, you can join us in the next week. This week we'll go for a movie. Now, Sham want to change his schedule. If you make the changes on the schedule of the Sham, is it impacting the permissions of other people? Is it changing the schedule of other people? No way they are changing. They told no issue. Now, this Divya on 22nd December, she told at 11:30, she told, my friend came, let us postpone tomorrow, next week. Then what will happen, boss? Right? Schedule is postponed to next week. So, you will get a message. The meetup is scheduled to 29th. All of you support. Now, if Divya plan is changed, entire team plan will change. Right? Got it? Now here, Sham is called. Sham also told on 19th only, this fellow told, poor guy, he told on 19th, boss, let us change the plan. No impact. So it's called non-setup object. Now, this Divya is setup object. What was that? Any change that is made, any change, any DML operation made on, any change that is made on the Sham schedule will not impact the schedule of other people. The schedule of the Divya is modified, the schedule of the other people is getting modified. The same concept I am giving as a DML now. Look at it. All the four are four different objects. They may be a standard object or they may be a custom object. So, Sham is an object, Ram is an object, Divya is an object, Kavya is an object. Four objects we have. Now, if you make a DML on any one of these objects, DML, maybe inserting a record, modifying a record, deleting a record. The object on which, if you make a DML, that will impact the permissions of other users on the records. If you make a DML on object, if you make a DML on this object, it will impact the permissions of other users on the database. Then that object is called setup object. Object on which, if you make a DML operation, that will impact the permissions of other users on database. That object is called setup object. So in our case, if I make a changes on Divya object, that will impact the permissions of other users. So Divya's object is what? Setup object. Object on which if you make a DML, that will not impact the permissions of other people on the database. They are called non-setup object. So Sham is a non-setup object. Now let us make it technically. Let us make it technically. Now we have user role. Look at the point. I have a CEO, VP sales, journals, this is some data like this. Now I have some users, Sham, VP, Ram, right. I have some database here, 111 Sham 222 run. Now tell me which record Sham can see. Sham will be able to see 111, 222, 333, 444. Role hierarchy. Role hierarchy, I was able to see every record. And Ram was able to see 222, 333, 444. Then Kiran was able to see 333. Then Hari was able to see. Now what I have done, this is reassigned to, this is reassigned to now tell me which record Sham will be able to see. I modified. I made a DML operation and told user role sales manager will report to VP, okay, VP will report to CEO. I made a DML. Generally in the object what we have, role name reports to which role. I made a DML operation and modified, sales manager will report to CEO directly. Then which record Sham will be able to see? 111, 222, 333. Ram will be able to see. So what happened? The change what I made on the user role impacted the permissions of users on the database. Am I right? Now this has impacted the permissions of the users on the database. So what is this object called? Setup object. Now let us take. I have a profile. Customer object. Read. Edit. Right. Now OWD is private. OWD is private. Now look at this. When OWD is private, I have a user called Sham. For Sham, I gave a permission called Sham's profile is manager. Which records he was able to see? Because OWD is private, you will be able to see 111 Sham. What operation? Read and edit. Am I right? Sham has a profile called manager, because of which he has a permission of read and edit on his own record. Why? OWD is private. Now I made a DML operation and updated. Sham profile is changed as clerk. When Sham profile is made as clerk, what happened? He has an option of view all. Which records you can see? Sham. What you can perform? Read, edit, delete. Now what happened? Because I made a DML operation on the user, I modified the profile, the permissions of the user has modified. Previously he was able to see only 111, now he was able to see 111, 223, 333, 444. So the objects on which, if you make a DML operation, if it impact the permissions of the user on the database, such type of objects are called setup objects. The remaining objects are called non-setup objects. I hope you got the clarity. Am I clear with this? Am I clear? Okay. Now, what is the problem with this setup and non-setup? Okay, we got setup objects and non-setup objects. We got it, very good. But what is the problem with this? The problem with this is you cannot make a DML operation. You cannot make a DML operation on setup objects and non-setup objects in a single method. Within a single transaction, you cannot make a DML operation on setup and non-setup. Within the same transaction, I cannot make a DML operation on setup and non-setup objects. So look at this. Now, within a single operation, within a single transaction, if you make a DML on setup and non-setup objects together, it will throw an exception called mixed DML exception. Now, what are the setup objects? Field permission, group manager, object permission, permission set assignment, QS object, then user role, user territory, custom settings. It's removed from the old version. So these are the objects. Except these objects, rest all the objects are set up. Now, frequently used objects are group member, then user. So these are the frequently used objects. These objects, user territory, user role, user territory, user, object permission, field permission, permission set assignment, group member. These are the frequently used objects. These are called setup objects. Except these, rest all the objects are called non-setup objects. Now, what is the issue? If you are trying to make a DML, on setup and non-setup objects together, it is going to throw mixed DML exception. Let me show an example here. User is a setup or non-setup? User is a setup object. Get me the profile whose name is test. Then we are trying to assign now. What was this? Was creating a user. User is a setup object. Now, creating an account. Account is a non-setup object. Within the same method, I was trying to create a user. I was trying to create an account. User is a setup object. Account is a non-setup object. Within the same transaction, if you try to perform a DML on setup object and a non-setup object, it will throw an exception called mixed DML exception. Let me execute this. mixed. What is the operation we got here? Mixed DML operation. Why? We are trying to perform DML on setup and non-setup objects together. So it is giving an exception called mixed DML exception. To avoid this, if both of them are running together, we have an issue. That's why what we are doing, public. If I define as a future, they will run separately. What happened in this case? If I define in the future method, then what happened? Invoke will run separately, call me will run separately. But at the end of the game, user is created, account is created. The problem is, if both of them are running together, we have a problem. We can resolve it by using what? Future method. We can resolve it by using future method. I hope you are getting my point. Boss, when you are making a DML on setup object and non-setup objects together, we are getting an issue. To avoid this issue, what we are doing, using a future method. If you use a future method, the transaction will run independently. This can avoid your operation of mixed DML operation. Let us see. Now we lost that error. Right, boss? I hope you are good. Setup object and non-setup object. What is that setup object? Tell me. Object on which if you make a DML, it will impact the permissions of the user on the records of the database. They are called setup objects. Name some of the setup objects. User, user role, group, group member, field permission, territory, permission set, assignment. Okay. The next, non-setup objects. The objects on which if you make a DML, they will not impact the permissions of the user. They are not set up. Example, account, contact, opportunity, X, Y, Z. Now what is the issue? If you are trying to make a DML on setup or non-setup together, we had an issue. What is that issue? Mixed DML operation. How will you resolve it? By using future method. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Okay. Clear for everyone? Right. Next one. If you want to call web services from the future method, if you want to call web service from the future method, we have call out equal to at the rate of future, call out equal to true. When you give this, we can call web services from the future method. If you want to call a web service from a trigger, we require a future. If you want to call a web service from the schedule apex, we require a future. The purpose of using a future method is invoking the web services from triggers, invoking the web service from schedule apex, handling the bulk operations, bulk DML operation, or handling the mixed DML exception. Handling the mixed DML exception, handling the bulk operation, invoking the web service from the trigger, invoking the web service from schedule apex. I hope you are good. Clear? Clear for everyone? Okay. Right. Finally, there is a pilot version going on in the Salesforce from last 2 years, but it never made as live. But still, there is a pilot version which says generally in the method, how many SQL queries we can write? 100 SQL queries we can write. If you write more than 100 SQL queries, it throws exception. If you want to increase the limits, we can give limits equal to 2 into. This will make number of SQL queries as 200. So if I want to make 300, by default only 100 SQL queries we can write. If you want to increase the limits, we can give limits equal to 3 into number of SQLs. How many DMLs we can write? 150 DMLs. If I give 3 into DML, it will increase to 450. But it is not suggested. That's why they didn't make it live. They didn't make it live. Still, pilot version is going on from a couple of years. Okay, from almost 2 years, the pilot version is going on. They never made it as live. So if it is made as live, you get increasing of limits in the Salesforce can be done with the feature. But now it is not available. Okay. So you can say updates happening on feature. This is one of the update. Okay. I hope you are clear with this. Clear? Okay. Tell me what are the drawbacks of it. Future cannot be called from future. Future will not support S object. Future will not return any job ID. Then next, it will not return any job ID. Then what is the next? Return type is void. It will not return the job ID. One is future cannot be called from future. Second, it will not support S object. Third one is will not return any job ID. The three drawbacks are there. Okay. Let us go to the next concept, which is a Kubel apex. Next concept is.
Satish, I have a question. The future jobs which are going to run separate thread, right? Is there any way we can identify whether the future job is called independently or part of another
You see, no,
job?
you are able to see the log files here, right?
We can trace it back, right?
Yeah. Here, now look at this. Delete data field. From show, delete data is called. Which method is called?
Thank you.
Right. Let us go to the next one. Next one is our next operation is Kubel job. What is this Kubel job and how we are going to use it? Now the point here is Kubel jobs. Kubel jobs are also asynchronous operation. The way you run the future, Kubel also exactly the same. If both of them are exactly same, why? What is the difference? Future will not support chaining of job. That means future 1 calling future 2, future 2 calling future 3. That is what? Okay. Future call from another future is not supported. Now I want to apply chaining of job. First I want to call a future 1. Future 1 should call future 2. Future 2 should call future 3. This chaining is not supported in the future. But in the Kubel, we can support the chaining. That's only the advantage what we have. Generally, I go for a future. Wherever I want to go for a chaining of job, I'll go for Kubel. Wherever I require a chaining of job, I'll go for a Kubel. Otherwise, both of them are same. Now, how you are going to define? How do you define a Kubel apex? Now, if you want to run any apex class as a Kubel apex, if you want to run any apex class as a Kubel apex, if you want to run any apex class as a Kubel apex, it has to implement an interface. What is the interface, boss? What is the interface? Kubel interface. You want any apex class to run like a Kubel apex. You want any apex class to run like a Kubel apex. The class has to implement a Kubel interface. The class has to implement Kubel interface. Now, any class implementing an interface has to define every method in the interface. Am I right? If a class implements an interface, it has to define every method in the interface. Now, in the Kubel interface, what is the method we have? The method what we have is void execute. What is the method? Void execute. Whatever the logic you want to run like asynchronous, that has to be divided in the execute. That has to be defined within the execute. If you want any apex class, to run asynchronously like a Kubel apex, then it has to implement an interface called Kubel interface. Class implements Kubel interface. If a class is implementing Kubel interface, it has to define execute method. What will be there in the execute method? Whatever the logic that you want to run asynchronously, that will be in execute. Now let us see. List of account. I'm just updating. Rating equal to. So how are you defining? Class implements Kubel, and we have to define void execute. Void execute. Void execute. Kubel context. Kubel context is again interface which have a method called get job ID. If we want to know the ID of the job, then we say qc dot get job ID. ID of the job which is running, if you want to know, we need to give qc dot get job ID. It has a method called get job ID. It will return the ID of the job for which execute is running. I hope this is clear. Right? Write one example. Write a Kubel apex which will delete all the leads created today. Write a Kubel apex which will delete all the leads which are created today. Which will delete the leads which are created today. Public void execute Kubel context.
So what is the advantage of giving Apex for future method?
Now it will run asynchronously, long running operation. Now the advantage of Kubel is, wait, let me show an example. Right, boss? I hope you got my point. The Kubel is okay, right? Okay. Now what did it say? How did you execute this? If you want to execute this, create an object for the class. Then you have to say ID, job ID equal to system dot enqueue, system dot enqueue job. Now what it is doing? It is enqueuing job, system dot enqueue job. Pass the object of the class Kubel Apex class. Pass the object of the Kubel Apex class. Are you calling execute method directly? No. You are simply saying system.enqueue. It is automatically calling the execute method of that class. Okay. Now execute it. Once I execute it, what will happen? Any asynchronous job that is running, first that will be registered with the async Apex job. What was that? Kubel job operation complete. Okay. Right, boss? Now the question is, future is also running asynchronously. This is also running asynchronously. Then when do I use this? That's what I told. Look at the point. This is what? This is a Kubel Apex. Can I call a future method within a future method? Now I am calling what I am doing. In one queue, I was able to call another queue. In one queue, I was able to call another queue. Now queue can be called from another queue. Now what was this called? Okay, Kubel can be called from another. The second queue will call third queue. Third queue will call fourth queue. Now we are able to call one queue from another queue. What is the advantage of calling one queue from another queue? Future is not supporting that. Queue is supporting. But what is the what is the advantage of going for calling one queue within another queue? Look at this example. I have 2000. My requirement is I want to delete these 2000 records. Now requirement says before you delete the accounts, you have to delete loans. First delete the loans, then delete the accounts. When there are loans for an account cannot be deleted. There is a logic internally. Now there are 2000 customers whom you want to delete. Before you delete the customer, the loan should be deleted. Before you delete the loan, payment should be deleted. Are you getting my point? So how the operation goes? First deletion of payment, then deletion of loan, then deletion of account. Then payment are 4000 payment records are there. Loan are 6000 loans are there. Let us say 3000 loans are there. Now is it a bulk operation? If you are trying to delete a 4000, is it a bulk operation? Yes, it is a bulk operation. Then what do you want to do? Now I want to take, what should I do? First call a queue. This will delete. In this, I am fetching the data. Fetch payments, delete, then call Q2. Now then what Q2 is doing? It is also bulk amount of data. Public void. call this will delete account. So what happened? I will execute this. When I call this, this will complete. Once the payments are deleted, it will call second queue. Automatically that will has to call second operation. Second operation has to automatically call third operation. Now what is this? Here it require chaining of operation. All the three are what? Bulk operation. All the three are going to take a lot of time, but they have to run sequentially. After deletion of payments only, loan deletion should happen. After deletion of loans only, account should happen. Right? All of them are asynchronous. I cannot run all the three separately. If I write a future method, what will happen? Q1, Q2, Q3 will run at a time, so it will be failing. What is my requirement? They should not run at a time. First, the payment deletion should done, then loan deletion, then your account deletion. So one after the other should be done. So how can I achieve? Chaining of job. Q1 will call Q2, Q2 will call Q3. When Q2 will be called, when Q1 is completed, Q2 will be called. When Q2 is completed, Q3 is called. This concept is available here. I hope you are good. Chaining of jobs. This is advantage what we have. But future cannot be called within a future. That's a drawback. Q has the advantage of chaining. Q can be called within a queue. This is the advantage of going for a queue. Only this is the advantage. Only this is the advantage. Only this is the advantage than future. Are you clear? The other points the people say job ID will be given. When you are calling, how you are executing? The other things are minor things. But as a point, you can mention it. So what are they? ID of the job is given. If the ID of the job is given, I can write a SQL query and find out the status easily. Second, Qubble job can support S object and non-S object. Right? So major advantage is going for the Qubble is chaining of job. But at the end of the game, both of them are used for handling long running operations. I hope you are good. Clear for everyone? Right, boss? I hope everyone is good. So how can you find the status? Go to Apex setup, monitor, jobs, Apex, jobs, go to status. Or else write a SQL query on async Apex job. What is the difference between future and Qubble? Future will not be supporting future within a future. Qubble will be supporting Qubble within a Qubble. We can go for chaining of job if you want. Whereas in the future, we cannot go for a chaining of job. One asynchronous method has to call another asynchronous method. First asynchronous method should complete. It has to call second. Second has to complete. Call third. Asynchronous means run parallelly. But you want to run one after the other. Asynchronous means run independently, run parallelly. But you want to call run independently, but one after the other. Future is what? Run independently, run parallelly. But Qubble is what? Run independently, run them one after the other if you want. Are you clear about this? Chaining of job is supported in the queue. I hope you are good. How can you make a Apex class as a Qubble? Class implements Qubble interface. Are you clear? Am I clear with this? Right. So online, am I clear with that query? Right. That's all from my end for the day. We'll continue tomorrow.
Yes, sir.